A good quality of life to me is a, well, let's talk about children. Is a child that can smile, that enjoys themselves. Not necessarily, you don't have to be able to walk and talk to have a good quality of life. For instance,
I suppose for me is about being mobile, being able to do the things I want to do, and not have any of my sort of senses impaired in any shape or form. But then I'm one of the really lucky ones.
Frank is comfortable and free from pain, with familiar people in familiar surroundings, that he can enjoy sensory experiences like the hydro pool and the swing.
There's a treatment being trialled for use on the NHS. If it's not accepted, many children will not live beyond the age of 12, and their parents will lose all hope.
It has been a steep learning curve with Frank. There's been a lot of things to kind of contend with. So the seizures were terrifying, but then to see him stumbling, unable to coordinate the movement of his limbs, so that he was constantly falling, or drop seizures, so he'd fall and he'd hurt himself. I love the picture of Frank on the beach in his wetsuit, but actually that holiday he was so unsteady on his feet that he fell into a rock pool and split his lip. You know, you want to stop your child from doing things that are dangerous for them because they've become so unstable. But then with hindsight, it's really difficult. You think, I just wish I'd given them every opportunity, because then you know that things are getting harder and harder. It's all been hard, but most recently, I say recently, it's 2 years now, not seeing Frank smile for 2 years. We were very keen to engage support from the hospice early on, because we were wanting to make sure that Frank's death will be as good as possible as well. So it's, I think being a nurse, I've got experience of that as well, you know, in terms of people being at the end of life. And it was really comfort to me to think that we would have all the resources we could do at the end to make sure that Frank was comfortable.
Frank Thompson is one of between 30 and 50 children in the UK currently suffering with Batten's disease. He was a healthy boy at 3, but then started showing worrying symptoms, and 2 years later he was diagnosed. Now at 10 years old he can no longer walk or speak, and he suffers from acute dementia. For Frank there is little hope, but for others with the disease, a new hope has emerged. Whether or not this is an affordable hope is part of the tough debate between the families of these children and the NHS. Inheriting a recessive gene mutation from both parents causes Batten's. The mutation stops the production of enzymes, which creates a buildup of proteins in the brain and eye. Solipinase alpha is an enzyme replacement therapy developed by US-based drug company Biomarin. Children undergo brain surgery to install the catheter, and then the drug is infused over 4.5 hours.
Every 2 weeks, the handful of children on the clinical trial for the drug Solipinase alpha come here to Great Ormond Street to receive treatment. Whether the drug can be made available on the NHS is still in debate, and it's one of the most controversial debates in modern British healthcare. The drug is safe, but costs almost £500,000 per person per year for the treatment. Now, over the next few months, we'll follow the debate, how it evolves, and what happens.
Mike and Lucy have 2 children with Batten's disease and have been very vocal about the importance of this treatment. Ollie is 7 and was put on the treatment at age 5, but he can no longer walk or talk. However, his sister Amelia received the treatment soon after her diagnosis and is not showing any signs of Batten's.
It's heartbreaking that we will never hear Ollie's voice again. But it just means everything to us, that we know that he's happy and he's safe and he's enjoying life.
Because before Ollie started the drug, he was going downhill rapidly because the disease is very aggressive. It takes your abilities one by one quite quickly. So since Ollie started the treatment, he has more or less been seizure free. So before the treatment he was having hundreds of seizures, hundreds of different types of seizures a day. So he's a lot more settled. Obviously, you know, the disease has took some of his abilities, but he's very steady now.
I mean, you mentioned Amelia hitting all the milestones. Are you seeing any signs of Batten's disease?
So she's got a slight speech delay, but that's improving every day. And she's just learning, isn't she? Just like any other child her age, she counts to 10. She can make. She's starting to colour in the lines, isn't she? She's just incredible, and it's just amazing to see and to know that Ollie, that could have been Ollie.
How much of this is a fight against time?
The way Batten's disease is, it's probably quite quick, because it's just so aggressive.
Sort of weeks.
Possibly.
And Amelia showing signs if they don't.
Again, if she was the same as Ollie, she'd lose more or less all abilities very, very quickly, wouldn't she?
Yeah.
Amelia is 5 years old and is Ollie's younger sister. She attends Vernon Primary School, where she has a normal life. She can make friends, she can continue to learn, and her quality of life is good. And she was given solipronase alpha at a much earlier diagnosis than her brother Ollie. So this provides more evidence that being on this drug at an early diagnosis is sometimes the difference between being able to continue a normal, healthy, happy life at school or being reliant on 24-hour care like her brother.
The National Institute of Healthcare Excellence, or NICE, makes the tough decisions to approve or reject funding for drugs on the NHS. For solipronase alpha, the highly specialised technologies team is making the decision.
So the HST, or Highly Specialised Technology Programme at NICE, is designed to evaluate new drugs or new technologies for the ultra-orphan diseases that are around in the world. And the idea is for us to be able to understand whether a drug is delivering the outcomes that patients need and is cost effective. So can the NHS be recommended to fund that drug? So that's the decision we make about whether or not new drugs for those rare diseases should be funded by the NHS. It's really difficult because at the end of the day, as a parent, and if I'm a parent myself, you know, you'd want to push for whatever is right for your child, or whatever you feel is right for your child. As a committee or as an organisation, so NICE don't make the decision, committee do, but they have to be looking at the decision they make and how it impacts on everybody else who might need access. And so we've got to be able to make a fair decision, a transparent decision, and a decision where all of the evidence, including the evidence submitted by patients, is valued equally, but also gives us the right answer. So we're committing the NHS to a funding commitment, and we have to be sure we've made the right decision.
For parents like Mike and Lucy, they feel their views are being glossed over. They see the effects of the drug every day and believe it works.
Sometimes we don't get the chance to speak as much as everybody else, and you know, we're the people that are living this day in, day out. And so who's better to ask than the people that are living with it?
It's very hard to carry on with your life knowing that this treatment could stop tomorrow. And I don't know how these people that are at the top at NICE can expect a family to carry on like that. I think it's unfair. There's a sort of like anxious feeling all the time, just not knowing what's going to go on.
It just completely depends. They could say yes, they could say no, or they could say they want more discussions before they make any decision. We don't know.
Isabel is 7 and was offered a coveted place on this breakthrough trial, but her parents decided to turn it down.
So when Isabel was diagnosed, we were offered an opportunity to learn more and take part. If you'd known Isabel and met her, then you would have known that she hated hospitals, she didn't want to go near them. And we both have a view that life is for living as much as we can, and we were very much of the view that there was no evidence at the time, because it was the beginning stages of the trial. But
obviously now it's been proven to prolong life and almost sort of reduce the degenerative effects of the disease. Would you, with hindsight now, wish to put her on it?
I think hindsight's a very
dangerous thing,
and also we've both had lots of conversations about this. And
I'm still not sure whether I would have.
Putting your child in a situation where they have to attend a hospital every 2 weeks. It's major brain surgery. It's not. For want for a better word, it's not what it appears in the press. You know, it is successful for some children, but the treatment is grueling. You know, we would never have been able to have gone to Florida for a month, or we would never. You know, there were other things that we wouldn't have been able to have done, and she wants to just live for now. And I know that when I look at her health needs now and how much that's affected her, yes, it could be different. She could be living a healthier life without some of the effects of the disease. But ultimately, it's not a cure. And what we had to think about when reading a lot of this was, is it quality of life to give your child brain surgery and take them to hospital every 2 weeks to give them treatment?
NICE's second review of the treatment was in Manchester. I was allowed to attend the public review, but not allowed to film. NICE did not make a decision, but stated a draft report will be finished in a few weeks. Ollie and Amelia's mum, Lucy, was invited to share her opinions of the drug's effectiveness, but this happened behind closed doors. I met her father during the public section of the review.
So do you feel like the parents of children with Batten disease are being heard by the committee?
No.
And why not?
Well, because they've not been the one we've just seen, Lucy was there. I think there was another parent there as well who've got children with Batten's disease, but they weren't involved. All they could do was sit there and listen. They weren't invited to express an opinion by the chairman, and they're not asking the person who's got the child with Batten's disease their opinion or their experience. Now, I don't know what happened last time, whether Lucy was, and what's happening now, I don't know. Hopefully Lucy's been allowed to counter any argument that's been put by the experts to say this is our direct experience, you know.
Alistair Kent is a health consultant with 25 years' experience, and he believes patients are not being heard. He knows the system, he works in the system, and he feels it needs to change.
Although the willingness to listen to patients is claimed to be there, in practice there are very real obstacles to patients, to families expressing their views in ways that the health service, other agencies such as NICE or other bodies responsible for licensing and approving the introduction of novel therapies can hear and respond to. And it's only really the parents of children who are coping with the day-to-day reality of having a child who has got a rapidly progressive and lethal condition. It's only their perspective that can determine whether the benefit and the risk calculation is one that makes them want to have the proposed intervention. And the first thing that most parents will want for their child is an improvement in the quantity and the quality of their lives.
What is a good quality of life? Some people think it's being mobile, being active, spending time with family and friends. Most people want to go to work, want to have a social life, want to have relationships. Essentially, most people want to determine and create their own good quality of life. But for children with Batten's disease, that decision isn't left up to them or their families. It's decided in places like the Office of Health Economics.
When a drug like solipinase alpha is being trialled, the effects are measured in quality-adjusted life years, or QALYs. It's a measure showing the additional number of years a person lives after receiving treatment based on their quality of life. On the y-axis is the health-related quality of life, 0 being death and 1 being perfect health. On the x-axis is the number of years lived in that health state. For example, if a patient lives for 2 years without treatment, the pattern might look like this. When a patient receiving the treatment lives for 4 years, the line might look like this. The result here would be a gain of 2 QALYs. If the QALYs add up, then the treatment is likely to be seen as cost-effective. NICE found the QALYs gained for solipinase alpha were 4.34 and would cost more than £100,000 per QALY.
Britain is the only country in the world with a totally government-subsidised healthcare system. With limited resources, formal measures of evaluating treatment costs do need to exist. But is the QALY too simplistic for an issue such as the life of a child?
The QALYs, I think, much of their popularity came from the fact that they were one of the first measures, and the fact that they are generic in that they can be used across lots of different settings, lots of different disease areas, so you've got a comparable sort of common currency. So that you're not restricted to making decisions in one area, you can make decisions across a whole health service. In order to fund a very expensive and cost-ineffective treatment for one group of patients, it means that there is less budget available elsewhere that could offer much greater gains for other kinds of patients. And NICE has a responsibility not only to the identifiable patients whose treatment is being assessed in that particular instance, but it also has a responsibility to all other groups of patients and potential patients whose services would be cut in order to free up the budget to fund the new treatment.
Aren't QALYs just an oversimplistic way of measuring health utility?
In a way, the brevity and simplicity of the QALY is what makes them so popular and makes them easy to use in assessment. But there are a number of circumstances where it is challenging to use QALYs. Assessing the health of children is one.
Difficulties in gaining a true understanding of the benefits of this drug plague the decision-making process. How do you quantify the social and psychological benefits when these children can't even communicate?
So the HST programme not only uses this kind of QALY framework, but also has other aspects that they're allowed to use as what are known as modifiers. So we're able to use things like the nature of the condition, which encompasses some of those things that you've described, the impact on the NHS in terms of providing that service, the cost to the NHS of restructuring services to provide. Various other carer sort of impact is also taken on board by the committee. So it's not that we just say, here's a number of QALYs that are delivered if we calculate all of the, if we do all the jiggery pokery that health economics does, and I'm not a health economist by background, and the answer is X, that's it, the game's over, we're not interested in anything else. Actually, the reason that we have clinical experts and patient experts at that meeting is the committee really want to hear about all of these things and want to be able to incorporate all of those elements into their thinking and their judgments. Nobody's come up with an alternative option. Nobody around the world has actually got another system, a better system to use. So until somebody does, I think we're stuck with where we are.
But among health professionals, there is a clear difference of opinion.
I think there's a need to, if possible, to kind of go back to the drawing board. I've always said that the QALY is very good at measuring what the QALY measures. The problem is that the QALY doesn't necessarily take account of everything that families, that patients would think to be important in determining whether or not a given intervention will have a benefit in their lives. It doesn't give due weight, for example, in my opinion, to the impact on parents and carers of a disease-modifying therapy.
Today, NICE has released the second draft proposal for the drug solipinase alpha. The recommendation is that more time is needed. But this literally keeps the lives of children suffering with Batten's hanging in the balance. Children like Ollie and Amelia, who are currently receiving the treatment here at Great Ormond Street Hospital. This treatment is literally keeping them alive, but for how much longer is uncertain.
The committee have come back and decided that they want to speak more in detail with the pharmaceutical company. So we're taking that as a positive because it's a step forward.
What do you think is going to happen at the next meeting in June? Is there a chance that you might find out?
I have no idea. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm hoping a decision will be made from there. But again, there's been, no one said yes, a definite decision will be made. So we really don't know.
It's been a very uncertain, a very long process. What's the timescale like? How long has this taken?
So Ollie started treatment in November 2016. Amelia started in February 2017, and then the drug was actually licensed in May 2017. So it's been then we've been trying to get to meet with NICE and the committee. That process started in January, and we're now in May, and the next meeting is the 25th of July. So it is an extremely long process.
What will you do if the drug isn't approved? Is there a chance that Amelia and Ollie will be taken off this drug?
Well, we know that we can appeal the decision, which is something we would definitely do. We have gained legal advice. We will do everything in our power for our children and other children to be able to get this treatment, because you'd think it'd be, inhumane to, take somebody off a treatment that's working, but at the end of the day, who is going to pay for that? Something that we keep saying is that people need to look at the bigger picture, and that there is research being done right now into finding a cure. This is a treatment, but it is giving our children the gift of time, and we are hoping and we are really positive that research and scientists will find a cure in time for our children.
Buying more time for these children seems to be the key, and that's what this treatment appears to be doing, especially with early diagnosis. Gene therapy is breaking new ground in healthcare, and with diseases like Batten's, it could provide the crucial research behind a cure. Sarah Mole is leading a team at the Laboratory for Molecular Biology in the University College London.
So for the enzyme replacement therapy at the moment, which is absolutely amazing, the children have to be treated every fortnight with an infusion into the brain. So, if that's an absolute total cure, it's wonderful, but that's every 2 weeks for life. So with gene therapy, what you have is the option of potentially just treating a child once, going in, making a massive difference, and that treatment might last for life, or maybe it will last for a decade and then you can go in again, but certainly it's more one-off kind of treatment rather than having to, tie yourself to treatment once a fortnight. There's a lot of gene therapy as at sort of the research stage going forward. UCL, we've got many groups working on gene therapy here, but in terms of developing something that works, that's safe, that you can produce in order to go into children, then for many we're not quite there.
Whilst gene therapy may help future generations, for some, like Frank Thompson, it may be too late.
Going to collect Frank from nursery, not far from here, I was walking to the nursery and Frank jumping off the ground and just saying, "Mummy, mummy, mummy," and throwing his arms wide. So delighted to see me, and my husband would say to me that when he'd go to collect Frank from nursery, he'd say, "Where's mummy?" So that was nice. I felt really loved by Frank. And Frank running around the garden. He used to love to be outside. We had a sand pit in the garden back then, and just sitting, digging in the sand, and a little plastic car and running around with the plastic car. Just Frank just enjoying the normal activities of childhood, really. Things are calm compared to how they've been. So there's a kind of calmness, and if you like, an acceptance.
Time is running out for children like Ollie and Amelia. Their lives literally hang in the balance while NICE debates whether or not funding Salipinase alpha is a good use of NHS resources. But NICE is in a difficult spot. They know the money they spend comes from the public purse. But for the families of these children, their lives are simply not just value for money. It's about security. It's about living without a decision looming over their head so they can enjoy a good quality of life.